really good target man,
Yeah.
and you have a really fast striker. Which one would you choose?
There is certain DNA traits that might make or break it for you. These days, you're also looking for good footballers. If you are playing an inverted winger or a winger who tends to come in and out,
What are the things that centre-backs needs to focus on?
it's very similar to keeping the fact that you've got to be comfortable playing short, playing around the sides, obviously looking to play balls in behind as well. So distribution, first touch is key, but also understanding the basics of pressure cover balance, when to defend, when to support, how to engage in a 1v1 battle.
I find the commitment is the big issue with the centre-backs. If you hesitate, if you should go to that ball, or if you should hold back, right? That's where I find the biggest problems comes with centre-backs, because now if you commit to a tackle, or if you commit to a header, and you don't win it, now you're losing your position, right?
I think it's instinctive, and I also think it can be trained as well. There's a lot of guys who are instinctively good tacklers, and they have really good spatial awareness. There's two things that kids should learn when defending. One is proper mechanics, which is never coached and very underutilized. How to actually drop back. You can't be turning around and running. Everything's got to be shuffled on the side, using your hips to turn, making sure you opened out to the attacker and also the ball. So mechanics is very important for a centre-back, because that also allows you to conversely set attacks to jump for the ball. It's something that's hardly ever coached, that I see anyway in the grassroots environments, and might be two of the most important things for a young centre-back. Because without those things, it's very hard to learn the next stage of defending when you get older in vet environments, which is doing all the work when the ball's away from you. Talking to your units, your midfielders to screen, your left back to tuck in, all that stuff to stop the danger, to limit the danger before it happens. And then bringing your unit up, bring your unit down. That's one thing I look for when I'm trying to recruit a centre-back. I just watch them off the ball. What are they doing? What are they saying? And if they're just stood kind of looking at the sky or watching the ball and not saying anything, doing anything, moving, then they're not ready for the high level yet.
I think a good centre-back has to be a leader. No matter what your level is, if you want to step up to the next level, if you are not a leader in the team, if you are not communicating, you can't be a good centre-back. And when it comes to the instincts with centre-backs, I find before instincts, I think a centre-back has to know themselves. If they're super slow, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Then you don't commit as much as the other centre-back who's a bit faster. What about fullbacks?
Fullback's another interesting position that has evolved over time. I think fullbacks, you're still looking for a somewhat of a profile, someone who is quick, someone who is really determined and dogged in the 1v1 situation, whether it be defending or attacking. These days, you're also looking for good footballers.
Yeah.
Because teams are playing inverted fullbacks and stuff like that. So that type of characteristic in a player is always beneficial as well. Having the ability to cross the ball. But I think what's really important now at fullback is really to understand triggers and react instantly. So what I mean by that is if you are playing an inverted winger or a winger who tends to come in and out, then that fullback has to interact appropriately with that winger. A lot of teams work on opposite movements, so if a winger goes out wide, you'll get an underlap from the fullback. They have to know and understand when to do that. If a striker comes and drops, then the fullback has to know, before he overlaps and gets gone, has to know if that possession is locked in. Has the striker got it, or is the striker in a position to flick on? Because what you see a lot of teams is the fullbacks go and the possession starts to develop and it gets lost in midfield. You see it even in the highest level right now in the Premier League. It gets lost in midfield, turned over, and it's a 3v2 on two centre-backs. They need to have a good tactical understanding.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah. They have to be an unselfish player.
Yeah.
Because fullbacks are out there to either take space or really cause a problem for the opposition. And conversely, they tend to run the most in the team. Yeah. Them and traditionally centre midfielders. So you have to have a good gas tank as well.
Most crucial positions on the pitch is the CDM and CM. What do you suggest to people that wants to be CDM or CM?
Well, it's interesting. They call it a central defensive midfielder, but the six, as we all know, has been the playmaker. of the last 15, 20 years, the quarterback, if you like. They're not known for the defensive breakup of the play. They're known more for getting on the ball and making plays happen. And at the highest level, they have to do both, right? You look at Rodri, he does both to a world-class level. But still, just like a keeper, most teams, if their identity is to dominate and play out the back, they're going to need centre mids who are good on the ball. So I would say you have to be good in tight areas. Your touch has to be clean. And what I mean by that is you must work on good contact to the ball and making sure that your first touch left and right on different parts of the foot is solid and you're very confident in those areas. And what else I would say is you have to understand on what areas to get the ball to play out the back. Not being so predictable in midfield, like receiving square on, receiving straight passes. You know, those things are what makes it really easy for the opposition midfield to really pick you off. You need to be facing their goal. You can't do that if you're facing your own goal. So in order to do that, you need to get your hips and your shoulders turned at some point. There's some guys who can do it in the blink of an eye, under pressure, and those guys are pretty special and those guys are very talented. There's other guys who really need to work hard at finding those areas. And you know, we call them side pockets, similar to the positions that side centre-backs take up, peeling out to those areas. Can be a really good creative area because not only can a midfielder roll out and get the ball there and get turned, but it also opens up a channel if they attract midfielders that you might be able to hit an inverted winger. A holding midfielder, obviously you've got to be dynamite with your feet, and but you've got to understand spatial awareness and quick movement to get in those areas. And you've got to have the ability to mix it up long and short. Like drive a ball across the field, drive a ball in behind, and play 1-2 touch in tight areas.
What do you think that separates a CM and a CDM then?
Yeah, well now we're getting really into semantics now. Is there a CM anymore?
I guess not, because used to be more of a box-to-box.
Yeah, I mean, you still kind of get him. I think Jude Bellingham is a great box-to-box. I think 25 years ago, he would have been probably a box-to-box player.
Yeah.
So maybe that answers our question. The centre mid came from the 4-4-2 kind of system, which isn't played as much as it used to be. There is certain DNA traits that might make or break it for you as a midfielder, in a certain system anyway. So, and then the 10, as we all know, is like, can you interact with a striker? Whether they're playing a 2 or 1 or a 3-box-3, whatever they're playing, can you interact with that role? Can you be creative? Can you get on the ball? Have you got the gas tank to get in behind on a regular basis? So yeah, I mean, and then receiving, we haven't even spoken about that, receiving in between the lines. You know, it's a hard thing to do because not only have you got to drop in at the right key times, but you've got to make sure that your touch is really clean on the half turn and you're checking your shoulder. And you can't start checking your shoulder at 18 and now you're amazing at it. No, you've got to be doing that when you're 10, 11, 12. Well, attacking midfielders, I think you need to understand what your style of play is in terms of the team. What's the identity? What are they looking to do? If they're looking to hit balls over the top, then like I said, you either need to do one or two things. You know, I need to get the seconds in and around your striker, or you have opposite movement, your striker drops, you go in behind. And that's kind of more of a direct team, or maybe a team that works in transition more often. However, if you're a team that really likes to play through the thirds, and then you're the guy they're looking for to get on the half turn, and the best players will find space. Yeah. Usually, for an attacking midfielder, you kind of have a bit more license. Your role is less rigid because you get to roam in between the units. If you're against a team that's very ill-disciplined and they're all over the map, that's great for you. You should be looking to pick them off with balls in between the lines all the time. If you're a team who is very rigid, you know, hard lines to break down, you have to really try and drag out them centre-backs. Can you provoke them centre-backs into areas they don't want to be? Just in front of their normal positions, right in behind the midfielders, or wide. And then also, against a high press or a really solid defence, you have to understand when to pick your moment. So quite often it's one touch here, bouncing it off, bouncing it there, moving around. Then all of a sudden you've found space and now you can turn and attack. But you have to almost be looking for them opportunities constantly before you get that Hollywood opportunity where you can turn and go or make a play.
What do you think about the strikers then?
Well, not only just a good goal scorer, but you know, we've lost the old school number 9. Obviously, is
Target men.
is unfashionable, right? But again, you know, look to your DNA, look to your traits. If you're a big person with who's strong, has a tough mentality, and you can put the ball in the back of the net, then you might be a good striker. But like anything, it requires training, especially at the higher levels. So understanding how to hold the ball up, I find, is a big miss along a lot of kids. They think they can just stand there and not expect the centre back to want to fight for it, want to win it. Understanding your physical traits and how to deal with them and how to get the best out of them. Conversely, if you're rapid, if you're fast, you have to use that.
Yeah.
You know, I've worked with fast players, and you wouldn't even know they're fast. So they have to know how to attack the space and when to do it. And also, your movement has to be disguised. Are you checking in, or are you angling your run? Are you going across the defenders as opposed to just running straight, and a good centre back will just have you offside every time?
You have to choose one. If you had the option, you have a really good target man, and you have a really fast striker, which one would you choose?
Oh, that's a good question.
They can't have both.
Can't have both?
No.
Can my big striker score goals? Does he score goals?
They can both score a lot of goals.
I'll probably take speed.
Speed, eh?
Yeah.
I think speed is winning these days in football.
I think, you know, strikers as well, like they really have to, if they're going to train shooting, I see a lot of guys who practice shooting, but is it realistic to the game? Mm-hmm. Because as we all know, it's very rare that you get an unopposed timed shot from 20, 25, 18 yards. That rarely happens in a game. You should be practicing shots that are very realistic. Ones that don't require backlift. A little touch out to create that little chink of light, little chink of window where you can hit a quick shot. Those realistic drills are way more purposeful than putting the ball down outside the area and trying to bend shots in. A striker as well they have to really do 2 things. 1, be dictators of their movement. Okay, do not let a centre back boss you around, push you up all the time. You should be constantly trying to drag them out, drag them forward, make them play you one side. So that's one thing. The second thing, you have to create a relationship with the guys who are going to feed you. Yeah. Who's going to assist you? Who's your go-to guys? Whether it's your 6, your 10, your wingers, wherever the bullets are coming from, you need to have a relationship with those guys. And that should happen on and off the field.
Okay, how about wingers?
Wingers, yeah. So again, I guess all the positions have really evolved over the years. Wingers, there's always room for guys who are pacey, right? But now the door's being creaked open for guys who maybe they didn't have the gas tank, or maybe they didn't have the physicality for midfield, and all of a sudden now they're inverted wingers. Or maybe they're super skillful, but maybe they can't be a striker for whatever reason, and now the door's open for them to be a forward. And it's very interesting because people think you play 1 striker, but really a lot of teams will play 3 now. They play 3 forwards.
Those wingers are up there for sure.
I think depending on what team you're in and what coach you're playing for, there's different traits needed. So if you're a true inverted winger, you should have one of 2 things in mind. 1, you should be looking to score when you come in, or supply. And before that, your timing has to be impeccable in terms of receiving, because your number 1 route to get the ball is probably going to be down that inside channel from a low centre mid or centre back. If you have to get it out wide, okay, now you need different traits. So if you have to get it out wide like Mo Salah does for Liverpool on that right hand side, then you're going to need bags of pace, be very tricky, and come in on your left foot there, like we see Salah do all the time. Whereas if you're just getting a straight ball off centre back, then you just need the ability to check, receive, and that creativity, whether to make goals or score goals. I always used to really like watching Liverpool when they played. Salah would play wide, but always want to come inverted. But he would wait till he'd get the ball. And then the other side, they had Mane, who was more of a traditional, get it out wide, get to the bar line, whip it in, or still be dangerous coming inside. So they were a nightmare to deal with for the opposing teams, but that was more asymmetrical. One side they're going inverted, one side they're going really wide. You know, so, and I think it's almost what Salah does sometimes as well. He's almost a 10 in those wide positions because he gets the ball deep sometimes.
Mitoma does it really well.
Yeah,
well.
Mitoma does it well. So Mitoma's a strange one because out and out winger really, traits, slender, rapid, fast, dribbler, but yeah, can do a lot of things, can check in and receive on the half term, can finish. So you're seeing a lot of different traits in these inverted areas. And that's why you see a lot of teams really try and take away that inside channel, and because then defensively, because then they feel if they have to go out wide, we can manage them there a little bit better. I think wingers, depending on how your team plays and what you want, speed, dribbling, and impact, scoring and setting up goals are now a big responsibility for you.